It was a calm Sunday morning on December 26, 2004. Millions of people across the Indian Ocean were going about their weekend routines, completely unaware that the region shared a fatal vulnerability. There was no early warning system in place for a tsunami. At 7:58 a.m. local time, the Earth's crust violently snapped. A massive 900-mile stretch of the seafloor off the coast of Sumatra ruptured, registering a massive 9.1 on the Richter scale. This was no brief jolt. The tectonic plates ground against each other for 10 unrelenting minutes, releasing energy equivalent to several thousand atomic bombs detonating all at once. Eventually, the tremors faded. On land, people brushed off the dust and breathed a sigh of relief, assuming the danger had passed with the shaking. As this cross-section shows, the earthquake thrust the ocean floor upward, displacing 7.2 cubic miles of water. That massive volume collapsed, shooting kinetic energy outward at 560 miles per hour. In the deep ocean, it barely disturbed the surface, slipping quietly beneath cargo ships unnoticed. While coastal towns began clearing debris from the quake, a silent, invisible ticking clock had already started for the rest of the world. Just 15 minutes after the earthquake, at 8:13 a.m., the ocean delivered its first physical warning to Indonesia's Aceh province. The crashing waves suddenly went quiet, and the sea began retreating rapidly away from the shore. This diagram illustrates the mechanics of a drawdown. Because the trough, the lowest point of the tsunami wave, reaches the shore first, it acts like a giant vacuum, pulling the coastal water backward out to sea, right before the massive crest makes landfall. People wandered onto the newly exposed seabed in confusion. Minutes later, the horizon darkened. Two massive black 100-foot walls of water slammed into the coast, annihilating entire neighborhoods and sweeping away 7-year-old Delisa and her family. The sheer volume and force of the ocean erased almost everything it touched. In Aceh alone, the tsunami claimed the lives of more than 61,000 men, women, and children. The surge eviscerated homes, destroyed coastal businesses, and tore down bridges, leaving a sprawling wasteland of splintered wood and twisted metal. Amidst the ruins, the water arbitrarily spared a single white mosque, leaving it standing completely alone in a field of debris. Because Aceh sat at point-blank range to the epicenter, survival was dictated entirely by blind luck rather than preparation or warning. Nearly 2 hours later, at 9:50 a.m., tourists in Khao Lak, Thailand, noticed a strange, thin white line forming on the distant horizon. This vector model demonstrates shallow water amplification. As the fast-moving deep water wave hits the shallow coral reefs offshore, friction slams the brakes on the front end. The kinetic energy behind it has nowhere to go but up, compressing the water into an exploding wall. The resulting surge pushed over a mile inland, reaching the third floor of resort hotels and carrying massive boats into pedestrian streets. While dozens of tourists were trapped inside the jagged walls of Emerald Cave, 10-year-old Tilly Smith recognized the warning signs on a beach in Phuket. Her recent school lesson on tsunamis allowed her to identify the bubbling water and clear the beach, saving everyone there. Even hours away from the epicenter, the only defense against the amplified wave was pure geographical literacy. Between 10 and 11 a.m., the immense wavefront simultaneously struck the eastern coastlines of India and Sri Lanka. This map view shows how tsunami energy interacts with landmasses. Kinetic energy refracts around solid barriers, wrapping the surge entirely around the southern tip of Sri Lanka to devastate tourist spots on the supposedly protected western coast. The sudden impact broadsided the crowded Queen of the Sea passenger train. A 40-foot secondary wave violently lifted the entire train off its tracks, drowning 1,700 people trapped inside the jammed carriages. By 11 a.m., the surge reached the Maldives. Because these islands are completely flat, rising only 3 to 6 feet above sea level, there was no high ground to escape to, leaving residents completely defenseless against the 13-foot waves. 7 hours after the initial earthquake, 30-foot waves reached East Africa, crashing directly into the rocky shores of Somalia and killing hundreds more. A deadly kinetic event traveled across the ocean for 7 solid hours, yet the speed of human communication failed to outpace it. The final human toll was staggering. Nearly 230,000 people were killed across 14 countries, leaving behind physical and psychological scars on an entire generation. Survivors faced a brutal secondary phase, as contaminated water and destroyed sanitation led to outbreaks of deadly diseases. Millions were stripped of basic necessities, left to survive in a landscape of concrete ruins. This immense loss of life was exacerbated by a global blind spot: the total absence of an ocean-wide sensor and communication network. Modern warning systems have since improved, but active fault lines remain a constant threat. Against a planet that offers only minutes of warning, our ultimate survival tool is our own awareness of nature's subtle cues.